Moving on to Brexit then, we touched on it. At Prime Minister's Questions, Caroline Lucas gave an impassioned speech accusing the Prime Minister of lacking any sort of clear plan or strategy in terms of negotiating the exit from the European Union. How much frustration is there that there doesn't seem to be any strategy, any plan, or any real terms of which we can understand what exactly is going to happen after we leave the European Union?
Well, I mean, it's become clearer and clearer by the day, and quite astonishing really when you think that we're sort of 5 months after the referendum, that Theresa May doesn't have anything more than a mantra. Brexit means Brexit is a mantra, it's not a plan. And so, I think it's really leaving our politics in a state of turmoil. And if you ask why this is, I don't know what's happening in the internal workings of the Tory party, but from the outside it really does look like basically the Tory party is riven by divisions. Senior people have all utterly different visions of Brexit, from the kind of extreme, we're just going to operate on WTO rules and pretend we're somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic approach, to some people who are actually not very different from the Green Party approach in saying they want to stay in the single market and keep free movement. So the Tory party, I think, is so riven that Theresa May has not been in a position to form any sort of plan. And really where we are now is we have no democratic direction on the way forward. There was no decision about what kind of Brexit the people wanted in the referendum. It was a simple ball question and the Leave side didn't present a plan. So really the only way we can go forward from here is to have an election. The 2015 Tory manifesto is now entirely irrelevant, assumed we remain part of the EU. We have to have an election to have any sort of democratic way forward. But of course, the problem is that the nature of that election. This current Tory government was elected with the support of 24% of eligible voters, which is tiny. That's not any sort of democracy. So what this election should also be about is about having reform of the voting system, electoral reform, a fair voting system, because we really need to restore trust in democracy. We need to give Britain democracy, and that means we need a fair voting system.
Is there some sort of sympathy with the government though, because it is a huge task to try and negotiate Britain's exit from the European Union, and they are trying to implement the will of the British people?
Well, I think the sympathy with the government, I'd show some more sympathy if they were actually acting in some sort of transparent, open way. They need to surely, have a direction of travel. I assume that Theresa May, at least in her own head, has an idea of what sort of Brexit she wants. And it would not be very hard to outline those things and then say, honestly, this is really complicated and really difficult. We saw the memo leak that suggested they needed 30,000 new civil servants to actually negotiate all the things that need to be negotiated. So what we need is some honesty and transparency, not this head in the sand ostrich approach of pretending, it's all fine and we're just going to keep ploughing on and not telling anyone anything and hope that something turns up along the way.
How has Brexit affected the Green Party's position then? Because prior to the general election last year, there seems to be a lot of momentum going your way, and now with the referendum and the fallout from that, everything in politics seems to have come to a standstill.
Well, I think what's really clear is that politics is very fluid and fast-moving and fast-changing and unpredictable. And that, from the Green Party perspective, is great, because we've really been stuck over the last 35, 40 years of, call it neoliberalism, call it neo-Thatcherism, call it what you like. And what's been seen as mainstream politics has been a very narrow band that said greed's good, inequality doesn't matter, and we can keep trashing the planet. That's now clearly failed, dead. People are looking for different alternatives. So I think what's really clear is the centre of politics isn't holding. The idea that we can just leave things as they are without real change, it doesn't make any sense to voters anymore. And so that's a huge opportunity for the Green Party, whenever the next election is, to significantly increase our number of MPs. In 2015 we got 1.1 million votes, which if we had a fair voting system would be 25 MPs. Well, what we'll be aiming to do is make sure in the next election we convert those votes into more MPs. And we can beat first past the post. We've done it in Brighton Pavilion, we've done it in council elections around the country, and of course here in Hertfordshire we'll be aiming to do that in the county council elections that we know are coming up in May.
What is your biggest fear in terms of Brexit? What would be the worst case scenario?
My biggest fear in terms of Brexit, I think, is to some extent has already come true, in that we've seen, associated with Brexit, a big rise in hate crime, not just crime against people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities, but more broadly against people from the LGBTIQ communities, more broadly in hate crime against disabled people. I think it was built, the winning campaign was built on division and fear, on people, individuals like immigrants, benefit recipients being blamed for the general state of our society, when the blame should be resting with failed government policies. So I think it's really important we stand up to that anti-immigration rhetoric. Lots of people I meet on doorsteps, when I ask them what are you most concerned about, they might say, to start off with, immigration. And when I say what does that mean, very often they'll say low wages, crowded schools and hospitals, my kids can't get a council house, housing's too expensive. And all of those are really rightful concerns, but they're not caused by immigration, they're caused by failed government policies. And we need to really stand up for acknowledging that immigration is always been part of British society. Immigration is many Britons living in other parts of the world, and free movement is something that enriches all of our lives, and we should celebrate that.
So then, following on from that, what can the Green Party do then to ensure that the government can hear its wishes and indeed make sure that Britain gets the best possible terms from its exit from the European Union?
Well, I think what the Green Party offers is we are very much locally based in our local communities, working from the grassroots up. And I have a saying that politics should be something you do, not have done to you. And we engage people who often have never been involved in politics before. We've got large numbers of young people, about 30% of our membership is under 30. We really get people engaged in politics, having their say, participating, and deciding for themselves what political issues, what campaigns they want to pursue. So I think we present the image of the fact that politics has to be a grassroots, people-centred thing, not London descending down from on high and delivering directives. As to come round in a circle, we were just talking about how it was doing in terms of housing targets for local councils.
And finally, the last question is, do you think Britain has been divided by the European Union results? Because the recent ruling now is that the High Court have said that MPs must vote to trigger Article 50. Could that then be a sense of MPs voting against the interests of the public?
I think Britain has been divided, but I don't think that was actually caused by Brexit. I think the division in Britain goes back much longer and much deeper than that, and the division really lies between, for shorthand, the 1% and the 99%. What we've seen is a small number of very rich people getting richer and richer, while the rest of us get poorer and poorer. If you go back to sort of early to mid-70s, up until that time, from the Second World War onwards, indeed before, inequality was declining in our society. From that period, the measures of inequality suddenly start to leap upwards. And so what we've seen is a few people taking a lot out of our society and not leaving much left. And you can see that if you look at, for example, of wage share, the percentage of our GDP that goes into people's wages has gone down by more than 10%. That's a tenth of the money in society that used to go to workers is now going off to corporations and very often into tax havens instead. So that's where the core key division in our society lies. And we have to get to a situation where rich individuals and particularly multinational companies are paying their way and paying their workers properly a genuine living wage.